Okay, now you can ask.
Okay. I guess I was telling Todd yesterday I was having trouble trying to form an actual question out of this, so much as just my head is just kind of swimming in all directions, but just having a little bit of trouble with our marketing right now. And I know we've done a lot of good things so far, and there's some things we can do better, but I'm trying to figure out kind of what we are maybe wasting time on, like doing too much of one thing that's not working at all, and what could be a little bit more effective for us to do.
So what are you doing right now?
Well, we have our social media, and that's definitely one of the areas that I know can be improved on. But outside of that, I guess our business is in the basement of like a residential building. So we have posters up inside the residential area there. We've introduced ourselves to the other business owners in that immediate area. We have posters up in the business area, like kind of adjacent to us. And then for myself, because I do massage as well, that's kind of actually one of the more stressful areas because I'm finding I have to recruit a lot more clients in that area because they're not coming as often. So I've reached out for massage and for training for me, I do some pre and postnatal. So I've reached out to some of the mom groups in the city and asked if I can come make a presentation at one of their groups about just the benefits of prenatal fitness and healthcare kind of stuff. And then I also teach one of the personal training certifications. So through there, I've talked to some of my past candidates, and some of them have taken me up on this about doing some training after their certification to kind of just get the experience of personal training before they go out and do it as well. That's kind of where we're now.
So my initial reaction is you're doing a lot of different things, talking to a lot of different groups.
Yeah.
I actually just put up a blog this morning based on a conversation I had with Andy McCloy out in Seattle. And it was exactly about this. And so he got, there was a message from Adam Bornstein in his presentation where he said, you need to pick one client and only advertise to that client, and then be consistent with it and only advertise to it. And Andy looked at me and he whispered, he's like, how the hell am I supposed to do that? I have 5 client avatars. And my response was, the decision to do that at our business was what allowed us to attract all kinds of audiences. So by positioning ourselves as just the baseball guys, it didn't pigeonhole us. Yeah, we drive a lot of baseball leads, but it's amazing how often people call me and they're like, hey, I know you're the baseball guys, but my kid's a swimmer and seems like you guys understand shoulders. Do you think you could help me out? Or, but my youth volleyball player has shoulder issues, or serving a tennis ball hurts and it seems like it might translate, and it just facilitates tons and tons of leads. So for you, if your business is somewhat young, I'd pick one of those things and double down on it. So maybe your emphasis is, I'm going to just own this building. I'm going to get as many people from this residential space through my door, and that's it. And put your time, energy, and resources into connecting with people in that space. Not 25% there, 25% chasing moms groups, 25% chasing manual therapy. Pick something and give it 3 months of all of your focus. And what'll happen is, if you do a really nice job with it, those people are going to talk about your business to more than just the people in that segment. They're going to talk to their family about it. They're going to talk to their friends about it. And it's going to generate leads for you. And it's going to take less time, energy, and resources. And so I'd start with the building, and I would start with something more than posters. I'd do an open house, something informational, kind of like you wanted to do for the prenatal. I find that nutrition seems to be a pretty good kind of catnip to people. And if you just do like an open house type night, come on in and we'll talk about it, nutrition relating to exercise or complementing your current training regimen, or maybe nutrition for people on the go. That's always like a good starting point for us to get kind of the general fitness pop's attention. But if they can come in and see your space and see that you know something, that's a big starting point. But if you don't give them a lot of different avenues to perceive your expertise and they're only looking at a poster, well, I ignore the shit out of posters. There's posters all over the community board in our building. I couldn't tell you right now what one poster says on that board, and I walk by it 6 or 8 times a day. So I guess my piece of advice is get a little grassroots with your marketing efforts and only focus on one thing.
Okay.
Does anybody care to elaborate? Talk on their experience? Tell me I'm wrong, stupid. Pat.
Yeah, so it was probably late July when you did the FitBiz. It was a nighttime one, and it was the same situation, Heidi. Like, I was throwing darts everywhere, and instead of what I noticed, and me being an ex-teacher, well, ex now, most of my clientels were like in education or within the community. So once Pete was like, why the hell are you trying to do this? Why the hell are you trying to do this? Why are you trying to do this? Like, who do you have right now? And at that time I had, I think, only 6 or 7 people, and they all were from the same mold, right? So then I just focused my energy on them, told them, hey, bring a friend in for free. You know, they want to watch your workout. Let them come in. There's no obligation. They can just watch. If they feel, have them dress ready to go if they want to join in and stuff like that. And then the other thing was the offering of service, like, and this just came from last week. I'm about to set up a free seminar of body weight movement. Just have people come in, teach how to move for free for an hour, and go from there. But when I took my energy from throwing 6 different darts and focusing on one group, right now I'm at 17 people. So within 3 months, they've already gone. I have 5 more coming in the next 2 days to do a free assessment, like a consultation. So just you're putting that energy everywhere, and just call a personal timeout, sit down, write down who your clients are, what do they have in common, and then go from there.
Okay. That's awesome. That's very helpful, because that's exactly what the panicky side of my brain just keeps saying. I need to do more, and the rational side is saying I don't need to do more. I need to do better. But I just have had a hard time trying to kind of focus that in.
You'll be really pleased with the results, and it's awesome because Todd, what am I, like 10 months into doing FitBiz stuff, and It's funny. It feels like 9 months was the tipping point when people started saying like, oh, I did what you said, and this is starting to work. And for me, I felt like I was giving you guys bullshit advice for a while, but in the last couple weeks, it's been cool feedback from guys like Pat, or people saying I've made a change. So if you've seen some success, listen to people like Pat who are really killing it, because that's no joke. That's doubling your business in 3 months. Mm-hmm. The problem is a lot of these gym owners, if they have 10, they think they need to figure out the solution to get to 60 right now. And some of the best advice I saw was yesterday on Facebook. Kevin Larrabee put up a post about his new gym, Allied Strength, telling people how he's excited, any advice, and someone just said 1 client at a time. And that is exactly what it is. You can't pitch 10 clients on 1 sales pitch. And so I love that approach. Just slow and steady, Pat, because 17 could be 35 by New Year's Day, and suddenly you're into New Year's resolution season and talking about hiring people.
Right. Well, I'm scared to death of that. Don't go there.
Good problem to have.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I have a question. I didn't have one originally, but this has all helped obviously formulate my question. Don't know if you know, Pete, but just kind of left a corporate gym in April. I've had some clients from that gym, but now obviously I want to get some more traction. It's a little bit harder, and I realized on Friday when I actually got a hit from my website, the lady asked me, how do I approach fitness? And it was kind of one of those things like, shit, how do I approach fitness? because when I was at the other gym, people who approached me for training could see what I was about, right? And so now moving around the city, I'm working out of different gyms. So I don't have the opportunity to do something like Pat, where I can say, hey, bring a friend, whatever, because I have to pay for that hour, right? So I've been trying to figure out, like, how am I going to put myself out there besides my website? What would be my 30-second pitch? I enjoy kettlebells, but then I also enjoy calisthenics and animal flow. Like, how do I wrap that all up, or do I just pick one thing? I was also thinking, like, Heidi, there's like some maternity place around the corner, some Rosie Pope or something. I was like, I can go in there and offer maybe a 30-second discussion, a 30-minute discussion on pre and postnatal, so kind of like, I just need to focus on something, and I'm really lost at the moment.
Anybody want to hit this, or you want me to go?
I can help if you want.
I have insights. You go first.
Okay. Well, I think when it comes to the discussion thing is, well, if you want to have a 30-second pitch, you got to have, I don't know what to say. If you want to have a 30-second pitch that you want to give to somebody else, you have to have a detailed description that you can give to yourself that you know and understand. So I think it sounds like you actually have to do some time and spend some time thinking about, like, well, what is it that I do, and why do I do it, and what is my philosophy? It's like, I can sit down for Beyond Strength Performance and for Strength Faction and tell you that our main goal is human development for development's sake. And we always quip that we just happen to be we're a human development company that just happens to work in fitness. And I can tell you about our philosophy of transformation, community, quality, and I can tell you everything about how our system works. But that's because I've spent the time to figure it out. And that's chopping wood. That's not like, you're not going to sit down and write it and it's going to be like, that's it. Were you on the call at all yesterday afternoon when we talked about how we developed the code of coaching values? It's a process, and it comes out through conversation, through dialogue, through writing, through thinking. And it's not like you're just going to sit down and have it. I think there's two things that I can give you is, think about what you do and try to think about how that all fits together and what you're trying to accomplish, and how can you write that out and think about it so you understand it. And then the second thing I think you need to do is be okay with being a fool, because the first time you try to write it, you're not going to like it. And then the first time you try to say it, you're not going to like it. And then you're going to keep doing it, and you're going to keep saying it, and you're going to keep writing it. And all of a sudden you're like, I like that. And it's going to make sense. And it's going to be easy to say to people. And then you'll be able to have that conversation a lot more easily. Pete?
Awesome.
So I have three different things, three different thoughts on this. First and foremost, this is selling. This person is asking you to sell them. And so embrace that opportunity. And the best way to answer that question, my perspective is, there are a lot of great ways to attack fitness, and my approach with you depends on you. So tell me about yourself. And you craft your sales pitch based on their feedback, because you have no variables in hand when someone says, what's your approach to fitness? That's a bullshit question if you have to actually answer it. What's my approach? If that's on a phone or an email, that could be a 400-pound person who's in a wheelchair asking you how your fitness system applies to them. Or it could be a 6'5", 240-pound football player with 6% body fat. Is your answer to what's your approach to fitness the same to that person and the former? No. So get into selling and embrace it. And selling is, to me, it's question asking. I might ask 10 questions before I give one answer. And so keep that in mind. Second thing I would tell you is that this is what social media and content creation was designed for. And you need to have a kind of a forward-facing version of your business, in the sense that everything you do, you need to think about it, is it scalable? So if Bitsy Now became a business that needs to make those hires, have you standardized the answer to that question in the sense that you can communicate to someone so that they can convey it to people as well? And the best way to describe this in my experience is when we started our business, I had zero fitness industry experience, literally zero. And Eric was like, you know what? I'm going to throw your ass right into the fire. Go ahead and sell. And I did it in a room the size of this office, and Eric and Tony each had desks in the same room. And I had to give the sales pitch selling their services with them there listening to me. And the anxiety, like, I get uncomfortable thinking of it right now. But the thing was, it forced me to understand that I needed to figure out the answers to those questions. I needed to be consistent with how I delivered them. And what I realized was I was getting the same questions over and over again. And I also knew, hey, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel here. Eric and Tony are really good at answering these questions. So I said to them, would you please publish content that answers these questions? Eric, I'm sick of people asking me what we're going to do for speed work with their kids. Like, what are you going to roll out an agility ladder and teach a 13-year-old how to have fast feet? And I was like, please just publish your answer to that. It would make for a great blog. And it has stood the test of time. So every time a kid asks me that, or a dad asks me that, I say, hey, can I get your email address? I'd love to send you an article that my business partner published. The title's Make My Kid Run Faster. Yeah, it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but he explains our training philosophy as it relates to this exact question, and I'd love for you to be able to read it. It does two things. It answers the question for starters. It also positions us as thought leaders and experts in this segment. And when we get there, you realize, wow, Eric's got this content archive of more than just the answer to that one question. And as I said in my last question, you need to give people as many avenues as possible to perceive your expertise. That's a way to do it. So exactly what Todd was saying, it's got to exist somewhere in a written or electronic format. I can't remember what my third piece was. That's going to come back to me. But I think I gave you a lot of,
Yes.
It's learn by doing and embrace the challenge of selling. Salesmanship's the best part of this. We all have to be master sellers and negotiators. I'd read Getting to Yes, and I'd read, what is it I've got over here? Never Split the Difference. They're both on either extreme of the negotiation spectrum. Getting to Yes was written in like 1980, and it's considered the gold standard in selling for decades. I had to read it in undergrad and in grad school for my MBA. And this Never Split the Difference came out in the last 2 years, and it was written by a chief hostage negotiator for the FBI. And it basically takes a big shit on Getting to Yes. It's like, I believe in this new philosophy. And I think, much like everything else in fitness or anything else, consume as much content as you can with differing opinions and find your middle ground. And I implement concepts from both. But that's how I sell. And this is really just a selling question.
Cool. Thanks,
I
guys.
hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it gives me some things to think about and work on.
Yeah, your challenge is tough. I mean, you're going from 0 to 1 here. And are you constantly traveling to different gyms, or is there any home base for you?
I work out of 2 gyms, so I'm either down in Tribeca or up on the Upper East Side.
And how's it going?
I mean, it's going good. I'm enjoying working out of the 2 gyms. But, you know, I need to generate more leads outside of the people who have been with me for a while.
Okay.
So it's just that, like I said, that new challenge of who am I, you know, what do I need to focus on? I need to get comfortable with saying who I am and what I represent and how I train and whatnot. Looking at things like, and see, that's the other thing. I'm not. And I think it's because, like, actually on the other side of the room, I have a big whiteboard of like this brain bubble. I think I'm focusing on too many things right now. And so I cannot concentrate. I have a list of blogs of ideas that I've wanted to write. And I just, for some reason, something's holding me back. And I think that's what it is I'm doing sort of like, I guess, like Heidi, but putting not 25%, but like 5% here, 5% here, you know, instead of just saying, okay, for the next month or so, this is what I'm going to focus on. I'm going to focus on just writing, trying to get some really good content. Once I've accumulated a nice archive, then, you know, start pushing that out and then put my focus to someplace else. So,
yeah, I think you need to give yourself an opportunity to accumulate some social proof. So what I would do is think about how you found the faction. You probably heard about it from a friend who wouldn't shut up about it on Facebook or something. And then the next thing you did was you went to their website, or you went to Todd's Facebook page and you started consuming content. That's what they're doing. They're creating content, and it's what sells for them when it comes time for you to make a decision. And so again, as many avenues as possible for people to perceive your expertise. Since you're not in one place where you can sell just by doing, just existing on the training floor, you need to figure out other ways to be visible. And from what I can tell, that's kind of the only one. You need to exist on the internet in some capacity.
Yeah. So last week, Friday, I finally decided to like bang out my website. Obviously it needs some tweaking, and it probably always will, but instead of just a landing page, I spent all day doing this. And so I'm feeling good about that. Like I put that in the victory corner of now I kind of feel focused a little bit, you know, finally have my picture up there and who I am and pictures of people who have trained with me in our outings or whatever. So it's on its way. It's on its way. Yeah. Thanks, guys.
If you're struggling with that, I would encourage you to leverage the faction forum as a place for feedback. It's a good place to dump that link and be like, hey, people, what sucks here? And
right. I didn't think of that.
Strong feedback.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
I have a good tip about blogs. I was Bitsy, if you're having trouble, is I was actually listening to Kevin Carr sent me Ryan Holiday's new book, the Perennial Seller book, and he talks about some of his content generation and how it's like he considers it. Oh, okay, well, can this hold a conversation, right? So can this idea exist in dialogue? Okay, can then it exist as an article? And then can it exist as a book? You expand that article into a book. So I think the one thing to pay attention to is, what are you talking about a lot? What are you talking about with clients? What are you talking about with your fellow trainers and all of that kind of stuff? Because there are gems in there, and it might exist as a sentence in a conversation. And then you can take that sentence and turn it into something completely different. So I don't think you can ever undersell the value of dialogue and being in it and creating it and having people that are willing to talk to you all the time. So,
and being aware of not just being present in the conversation, but having a mentality that everything that's discussed is content potential. And I find that the more conversations we have like this, or the more consulting I do, or the more seminars I attend, the more I have this influx of content ideas. When I have writer's block, it's because I've been living in my own little hole, trying to like magically conjure up ideas. But I could have one conversation like this and have my next 5 blogs. So you might have heard me say, I feel like I have all the answers, but I have no idea what the questions are. You probably feel the same way. And so be really aware of the way people are delivering their questions and how you're answering them, and then think about how you can repurpose them in a written format or video. Video is great too.
Yeah. So a lot of the list of blog ideas has come from conversations and questions that I'm constantly getting. And one of them is, what do I think about supplements? And I've heard supplements are bullshit, and, this kind of back and forth thing. And I'm like, this would be great to write on. But at the same time, I think what's holding me back as well is that I'm very to the point. Like, I don't think I'm creative enough. I'm creative music-wise, but wordsmith-wise, I'm not. And so my blogs wind up being like 2 paragraphs, like quick, to the point, boom. And I was reading in the book that Todd had suggested, was it On Writing Well, I want to say. And so the gentleman says, hey, it doesn't have to be a long thing. But I think that I'm getting maybe a little bit intimidated by reading everybody else's blogs, because nobody's blog is short, it seems. It seems like they're long, drawn out things. And it's like, wait, I don't have to be that. I don't have to be that. But there's this side of me that's like, well, come on, like, use your words, like be creative. And I can't just seem to do that,
I think that comes back to that letting yourself be a fool thing. Like, you gotta let yourself be a fool first. Like, there's 2 ways to think. Let yourself be a fool. Stop judging yourself. Like, of course you're not a great writer. You don't do it a lot. You will maybe someday be one. And then the second thing is, your blogs are 2 paragraphs right now.
Right.
Doesn't mean that they're going to be that way in a year from now. But if you don't do anything about it, they probably will be. But and there's also, Pete and I were having a conversation. I think it might have been on the the podcast where he talks about, you know, a lot of his content that gets the most shares and the most views and the most play is some of the shortest stuff that he writes. So there's value in that too.
I'm on a mission to go just abbreviate content to the point where it's shorter and shorter. I love a 2-paragraph blog. I can't get enough of that. And so I might have told this story before, but some of the best advice I got since I started writing came from a physical therapist named Mike Reinold. And Mike was practicing out of our facility on Mondays. And I had probably churned out 5 or 6 1,500 to 3,000 word blogs in a row, these like 10-point listicles or whatever the hell people call it. And he came in my office one day and he legitimately closed the door behind him. And he's like, "Hey, your blog's been great." "Oh, thanks, Mike." And he's like, "Would you please stop it with the long form content?" And I was like, "What? I'm sorry." And he's like, "It kills me to watch you burn so much content in one fell swoop. Take your 10-point list and write 1 point as a blog." And I was like, "Well, that point was 300 words. And he goes, "Great. It's a lot easier to pay attention to 300 words than it is to pay attention to 3,000. And I said, "All right, good point." And then he just asked me, and it was the best challenge. He said, if he basically said, "Publish one of those next week and tell me if anybody comes back to you and says, 'That idea was awesome. Where's the rest?'" No, they all stopped at, "That idea was awesome, period," which is fucking fantastic. Because I didn't waste any time, energy, and resources on trying to create something where I somehow convinced myself my material was incredible unless it was long. Long is just long. That's all it is. And so my sweet spot these days is like 400 to 600 words. It's one idea. It's a couple hundred words. My wife's a lot more eager to edit my material when I'm like, "Hey, this is just 422 words. You want to do it?" Whereas if she opens up a book and she's like, "Oh my God, this is a train wreck. This is going to take me an hour and a half." So I mean, 2 paragraphs sounds beautiful. And there's no such thing as too little content if the material or the insights are sound. Look at Seth.
A lot of times those short ones will stimulate a conversation, whereas like the way you answer it may be in a particular context that maybe you didn't lay out like in gross detail answering the question, and somebody might pop in and say, "Well, what about this?" You know, like, "Oh, in that case," like
Right.
it gets a conversation going.
Right.
But and I've tried doing that before too, writing stuff. I'm not a great writer by any stretch of the imagination. I don't do it often enough. That's one thing I want to start doing. But the stuff that people seem to like catch on to and actually I hear feedback from are the stuff where I just kind of keep it short and sweet. You know, no more words than I actually have to use. I don't need to go into every like possible situation like XYZ. This is like somebody asked me this question this week. This is how I answered it. You know, like maybe it goes with the video or, you know, something like that, but keep it short. I mean, if that's the way you do and that's what your clients like if you hear from your current clientele, like, "Oh, that article was great," and you want more people like them, well, they like short content. I know I heard like Mike T. Nelson was talking about like he does long form, like he writes chapters, and that's what his people love. Like he dives in the deep end and just so many words. He doesn't do it real often, but that's what his readership loves. So
Know your audience.
yeah, like you do your thing, and you're gonna as you get feedback, you're gonna adjust. Same way with like writing programs or anything else. Like you may think you've written a masterpiece, and then the client starts it, and you're like, "Oh shit." By the end of the session, like it's just scribbles on there, like we're changing this, we're doing this different, and you just put it out there.
True.
And I think about how you engage with content. So, for example, I skim the internet for blogs or articles to share in my newsletter, my Friday 4. And yesterday, I was looking for it. I'm like, "Oh shit, the Mark and Michael put out a new Business for Unicorns blog. Awesome. That stuff's always gold. Let me go over there." First thing it says, in parentheses, 12 to 16 minute read. Nope. Next. Sorry. I love you, Mark. You're one of the most brilliant people I've ever met in this industry. I don't have the time, energy, or focus to read 1,000 words to get to the meat of this. I'm going to keep going. I need to be efficient with this timing wise. So I didn't read it.
That's pretty much how I am. I see what you're saying. Like, I've noticed that if I'm reading a blog, if it's longer than 3 paragraphs, I'm like, all right, this is too much. And I'll get rid of it and go to the next one. Like, I want something short and sweet.
Yeah. So sometimes you're just burying really good stuff for the sake of saying it's long form. I bet that article they wrote was fantastic. But at that moment in time, I didn't have the focus to give to it. So I stepped away. So when you see somebody writing, like they'll say, sharing to remind myself to read later, that means it wasn't long enough for them to consume when they came across it. Well, if they had the time to stumble across it, it should have been abbreviated enough that they could consume it. So I love, if I write something real short, I'll write 1 minute read at the top, and it all but guarantees that people are going to give it a quick click. What's 1 minute?
Awesome. Very helpful stuff, guys. Thank you.
Which also kind of echoes Pete's point about knowing how you consume content, because he started off doing super long form. On Mike's suggestion, went to a short form, and then backs that up with, well, my Friday 4, like, this is too fucking long. Like, I want a quick hit.
Yeah, and it makes me realize I was like a fraud. Why am I writing 2,000 word articles when I wouldn't even read my own material if it was that long? Did anybody read that article, the Business for Unicorns post that they put up this week?
I can't ever read their stuff. Again, it's the same thing. It's there's just so much. Like, I end up just scrolling and kind of skimming until I get to like the point.
Yeah.
And then go on.
It's meaty, really meaty stuff.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Todd, what was the next question on the Facebook page? I've got the computer open, but it's over here.
It's from Casey. Casey, do you want to ask it?
Yeah, I apologize. I'm in a really loud gym, so I'll ask my question then get on mute. So we've been hit up by a couple large organizations to bring our services in, and I'm just struggling to. And they ask super broad questions of what does what does it look like for you to train us? And us might be anywhere from one team of 20 to an entire organization of, 17 teams, 300 people. And it almost seems like it's a very polarizing size organization. Obviously, it's very financially lucrative, but I don't really know where to start. Or I guess, and it goes to what I was talking about last week, Todd, of just, is it even the right decision for us? Because if it is so big, is it going to cripple us?
I'll give you my insights, keeping in mind that they're not terribly informed on delivering that volume of service to people, and it's because it doesn't mesh with our business model. So one of the best things Eric said back in the day and still continues to say is, we will never allow our business model to dictate our training model. Meaning, we are never going to let our dollar sign vision that we see on an opportunity like that change our training philosophy. So if you are a service provider that personalizes training material right now, and you have a very involved hands-on approach, committing to this opportunity is definitively going to change your value structure as it relates to delivering a training experience. So are you okay with making that deal with the devil? We're not, so we don't. The second thing I would tell you is, if you do it, be cognizant of the fact that the language they use in promoting your affiliation with them could antagonize members of other programs, because they don't remember it's a very cutthroat game, these organizations, how they compete with each other. And there's not a lot of loyalty from clients. They bounce from one program to the next. They're dickhead kids and parents who don't show any appreciation to the organization that got them there. They just jump. And if you are perceived as the definitive service provider for that organization, you run a risk of losing the competition. And I don't know how big they are in relation to the other ones, but for us, it's Northeast Baseball, the New England Roughnecks, Team Nakona, Team Mizuno, all of these. If I allowed ourselves to be seen as the gym for any one of those, we'd be sold against, because every other one of the three that I named that weren't the one I picked are going to say, fuck CSP. They've aligned themselves with our biggest competitor. and it's just a dangerous game to play. So we're always trying to be as neutral as possible. I'm not saying don't sign on to do it, but be very clear about the language they use in explaining your affiliation with their program. But like I said, I have not delivered that experience. So if there are other people on this call who have had a 1,700 athlete program come through that they took care of, I'd love to hear how they did it.
Yeah, delivering the service isn't really the issue. I guess it's just like the proposal, because that's really far outside of the scope of what we do. That I just don't really know like what to charge. We're traveling, I was really kind of caught off guard with how broad the question was of what would it look like for you to train us. And my initial instinct was, well, we don't, because that's not what we do. Like you're saying, it's just that's not our training model. But at the same time, if it's off-site, off hours, can it hurt? But I guess like what you're saying is, if it is a large, like for example, it's a soccer organization, there is a lot of upper echelon or whatever soccer organizations here that the best idea might just be to take a step back and not align ourselves with really anyone.
Well, if you're saying it's off-site and off hours, I'm less concerned about it not meshing with your existing philosophy. I would be if you told me it was going to eat up a bunch of your energy and focus, and it's going to compromise your ability to do right by your existing clients. But beyond that, I just think of it as a lead generating resource. It's an opportunity for you to get in front of a lot of athletes and position yourself as the go-to service provider and drive leads back to your business. But it's not a scenario where you want to get them there and keep them there. The only reason to do this, in my mind, if it's off hours, off site, is to get in front of as many potential clients as possible and establish yourself as the guy.
Cool.
Other thoughts on this?
Is there anything I don't know if you've done this, but when you go into agreements with another organization, is there anything that you put in your contract or in the negotiations that you like your must-haves? If you want CSP, we want this in return from you.
I don't have any of these type of agreements in place. We stay as neutral as we possibly can. So I remind them that we're available to take care of their people and just go from there. They typically circle back to us and they feed us leads, because the whole they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care thing. It's a pretty impactful statement when you say, we can't do right by your organization based on our current setup and what you're suggesting. Can I make a recommendation for another service provider? They're kind of like, what do you mean you don't want my money? Like, you're going to send me to your competition? And it actually kind of works, because they're like, no, we want you. How do we get our guys to you? How do we send them to you? How do we get them in your building? If you won't come to us, sell me, please sell me. And so I personally think there's value in saying, no, thanks. I want to really do right by you if I sign on the dotted line and I can't take care of you the way you're asking me to. And they say, okay, well, how can you take care of me? Again, just my 2 cents though.
No, super helpful. Thank you.
Todd, you want to elaborate on that? You guys have worked with some teams, haven't you?
Yeah, we have a swim team, but it's small. We only have 12 to 15 kids each time. And, we honestly, we had the opportunity to have a huge soccer club not that long ago, and we turned it down, honestly, because for all of the reasons that you kind of elaborated on. We looked at it and we're like, this is going to be a fucking mess. We're not doing this. So it would have taken away from, Chris and I are pretty spread thin as it is, and we probably would have been the best people to go provide that service. So it just didn't make sense for us to take ourselves away from all the other things that needed to be done. So when we looked at it and we were like, this is so many people and moving parts and things to manage, and not to mention that we live in a part of the country where people are super wealthy, and along with their wealth comes a certain level of entitlement that they don't necessarily deserve. So it's just a fucking pain in the ass. So we said no to it. But we lucked out with ours. I mean, we have with the swim team, it's not that many kids. It's very easy to manage. The coaches are on board. I mean, so I don't know that I have a ton to add with this one, just other than I really agree with Pete, where it's like, does this line up with what you're really trying to do and what you do? And will it, because we all like to think, and I'm especially guilty of this, of, oh, well, I can handle it. Like, this isn't going to stretch me too thin. And then you wake up in August or September after 8 or 9 months of a year and you're so anxious, you don't know what to do with yourself. And then you go on vacation, you come back and you're still fucking anxious. And then you cancel a trip to Seattle to see Pete talk because you put too much shit on your plate. So I wouldn't undersell that to yourself. Like, oh, it's off hours and it won't matter. You know what I mean? So
you're not losing sleep over figuring out on that program.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Ooh, that is loud.
It's super loud. Pat, I think Pat, you were next, buddy.
Yep. I don't know if you saw it, Pete. It was just a question about referrals. Like, and maybe more people can chime in because you're at such a grander scale. But when you guys started, like, how did you reward or give incentives for people that brought someone in that signed an agreement, a commitment with you? Like, I've dabbled with this, and I try to say, hey, you get 1 free month, of this is what I do right now. So if someone comes in referred by a current member, they get 1 free month of their 4 or 12 month membership. So I just prorate that and take it off the monthly fee or whatever. I've had people like refer people and say, I'm not worried about it, I don't care. And then other people are like, well, hey, I referred, don't I get, but then it's becoming, I just don't, it's just new to me. And I'm trying to figure out like, what's the most bullet pointed way? Like, here it is, this is what you get if someone comes in and signs a contract.
Yeah, I don't think there's any right or wrong answer to what the best referral program is. I just think it's important that it be documented and it be clearly communicated to existing and future clients. Just whatever it is,
right.
Have a code that you live by. For us, it's pretty simple. It's a free training session or $45 off your next training package. So basically, for people who train with us once a week, it's a free training session. Just say, hey, come in twice in a given week in the coming month. Just because we're trying to upsell them into more is better. Experience 2 lifts in a week, realize like, wow, that's a game changer. If it's people who have, someone who's paying for an unlimited training model, and I say, I'm going to give you a bonus session, they're going to be like, write me a bonus day of program and have me lift a 5th heavy day of the week. Like, F that. That's right. Not my interest. So I'll knock $45 off their next training package. That's in the semi-private model. What we do sometimes, honestly, because kids don't understand like value and the numbers, sometimes we'll be like, hey, we'll give you a free training session or you can grab any t-shirt you want off the rack. And they're like, oh my God, I want the t-shirt. I'm like, fine, you're excited about the t-shirt, grab it. We appreciate you. With the morning sessions with Frank's, it's easier just to understand how the pricing structure works to understand the referral bonus system. New clients pay $99 for a trial month, and then they're $179 a month for each thereafter. So basically any client where we say, hey, if you refer a friend and they sign up, you pay trial month next month. So it's basically an $80 bonus every single time. And
Okay.
so the goal is always to bounce back to trial month rates with referral bonuses. And it's just the easiest way to convey the message. No,
I found that I've been consistent, fair and consistent coming from the education world is like what you need to be. And just making sure that everyone does know it is written on the price sheet, that I have when we do sit down during a consultation or something. And it's the semi-private. It has worked the other way. Like I had someone, she said, hey, I think my schedule opens up this month. I'd like to come 3 times a week. And And then she referred someone. She goes, "What do I owe you for that?" And I said, "Look, you brought such and such. I'll just put in your thing." She goes, "Okay, great. Like, thanks." So is it okay to kind of make that type of, I don't want to call it like spur, you know what I mean? But to her, it always comes back to, I'm afraid of when people talk out on the street. Well, so I got such and such, I did this, but I'm being consistent no matter what. Everyone has asked, and I've said, "Hey, they brought such and such. That's why their rate is this." "Oh, okay. So if I get a friend, my rate could be that?" Sure thing. They got to sign a contract though. They have to be signed. So it was just more of ideas or ways. I'm not to the point where we have t-shirts on the wall and stuff, and I know how that would work. But just ideas of referrals. He's got a ghost back there or something.
When I first started, I was working at a commercial gym. I had no advertising experience. No shit. The only thing I had was a semi-agreeable personality and a willingness to talk. So what I ended up doing, because I had no fucking clue how to run a business either. What I did was, it was just random gifts. I had no referral program, but I started getting referrals. And so then when someone would give me a referral, or they gave me, a couple months down the road, they've given me a few referrals, and I've, always thanked them and said, "Man, I really appreciate that. It's great." And they're like, "Oh yeah, we refer you because we like you." Down the road, like, I get them like a personalized gift. Like, one of my ladies, she referred 2 or 3 different people. I bought her a bottle of wine and a Highly hoodie. Just random. I was like, "Here you go. Like, I really appreciate it." And she's like, "Oh yeah, that's great." Books, whatever. And so in that case, that like month where you just like, I just come in a third time, same rate. Like, that's the same as giving them just like a spontaneous gift. And there's nothing wrong with that. You can deviate from it. You just don't want to be given. It's one thing if it's like a one-time deal, like she referred this person, they signed up, she gets this month, this many sessions, this price. The problem becomes when you get people paying like all over the place every single month,
right?
And they're not still referring that, and people start talking, and then that's where you start getting people coming and asking like, "Oh, why are you paying this and I'm paying this?" But yeah, gifts, like something like that where it's kind of like spontaneous, where it's not a programmed reaction that like, I did this, I should get this. It's like, I did this because I like this person and I like you. And then, oh my God, I got something that's meaningful and worthwhile. Like, Pat gives a shit.
You can do that. You can go off and give a referral bonus that isn't documented. There's nothing wrong with just saying, "Hey, this isn't a rate I extend to everybody all that often, so I'd appreciate it if you didn't talk about it." Oh, a lot of those kind of unsolicited bonuses, they kind of catch people by surprise, are the most impactful. I mean, we got a kid his dad was paying $729 a month for unlimited training for like the last 2 years, and he's referred us a ton of business. And we basically said, "Hey, why don't you pay the 3-day-a-week rate instead of the unlimited rate, and just keep coming as often as you can. You guys have been phenomenal. Knock a couple $100 off each month. You're just good clients. Please don't tell people we made the change." And they actually increased their referrals. Yeah, I've decided to forgo $200 worth of revenue each month. One step backwards to add $1,000 in revenue from all of his friends. Easiest thing we ever did. And those people can be trusted. And people feel so important when you say, "Hey, this rate doesn't exist for other people. Can you keep it to yourself?" They're like, "Holy shit, yes, I'm special." And it makes an impact.
Yeah. There's a few different relationships to think about there too. Is like that I with the formalized market type of relationship. So it's like, for us, that relationship is we give out gift cards. If one of your friends signs up with the gift card, they get $100 off their first month, and you get $100 off your next month. So there's like the market formalized relationship that we're very consistent with. And we also do the random reinforcement stuff, because those two things can't exist in the same relationship, right? So it's like you can't try to turn a friendship into a market relationship and a market relationship into a friendship. These are things that have to exist differently, and they can exist in the same building. You just have to separate them. And then, so we also do like Trey was talking about, like, hey, we care about you. Here's a random gift. And it's like not even necessarily associated with anything. Just we care about you. You're part of this relationship. You're part of this environment. And we know something about you. So here's this. And then the third thing that we consider with referrals is top of mind. Our clients, apart from staff development, my other main job is like client management, client relationship management. So people hear from me every month. They get an email, they get something, and I'm always checking in, seeing how they're doing. And we're always there. We're always there. And I think if you figure out those three relationships, you do pretty well. But I think the thing is you have to be like, I would say, like Pete's talking about what they did for that kid, that would almost be like the friendship one. And like, you'd have to think about that as like, not necessarily the one where you have to be a super consistent, but the one that's out there needs to be consistent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it is. We're, small community. I don't know if you're familiar with, we're similar to you guys, Metro DC, but we're a lot smaller. We don't have population dense. So we're small, still kind of small town, and being from the area, growing up in the area, there's a lot, and I just wanted to make sure that's not, there is the friendship relationships that are still through the business, through training. And they're the ones who are like, hey, don't worry about it. You're helping me. I'm going to help you. And then I have done stuff, like told them, come on in. You only pay for twice a week, but you want to come in, just come in, those types of things. And then I guess if you keep in the documentation or the formal, as you were saying, Todd, like there is if you bring someone in, this is what you get. And that's kind of the baseline for everybody. Like that.
It sounds like you're good, man. Sounds like you know more than you think you do.
No, and it's again, you guys hear me all the time venting. It's like when you're by yourself, you got to just make sure this is the opportunity where I can throw those ideas out there and say, all right, good. I'm not so like, you're good to go, relax, because you like Bitsy was saying that your brain's going, what if? And it's like, time out. Things are working. Let's just, stay consistent with that. So
I get it.
Think of the formal, the stuff that you have written down. That is meeting expectations. You have set that expectation from the beginning. And so that's like on a 5-star rating, that's like a 2.5 or a 3. It was, it was met expectations.
Right.
It's that little personal touch that goes and pops it up there that makes people like that raving fan that really gets them into the actual community. And it, like Todd said, it works even better if you don't necessarily tie it to a specific thing.
Yeah, the extrinsic and intrinsic motivation, is one thing that I'm learning. I take that over from my past career. Is there's sometimes where internally you make someone feel, boom, it goes way beyond that trophy that they get, So, like sometimes I'll send a personal message through Messenger or a text. I really appreciate what you've done. Boom, boom, boom. And they're like, awesome, you've helped me, so it's that the intrinsic is definitely the 5 out of 5, like you said, whereas that other side is just kind of, it's there. If someone asks, now I know. It's not like a canned answer like you do with but it's like, boom, okay, if you refer someone, this is what you get. And then over time, those, personal, like Todd, the more personal or the friendship type one, by the way, here's this or here's that, whatever it might be, words or physical or something. So
grab the book Drive by Daniel Pink.
Don't read Drive. Read why we do what we do. Daniel Pink, I'm not shitting on you. I'm going to shit on Daniel Pink, though. Daniel Pink doesn't understand that as well as he thinks he does. and he really tries to make it super pop psychology, and he misses the point on a lot of things. So if you really want to understand self-determination theory, read Edward Deci and Richard Ryan's work directly.
Got it. I bought that last year, read it, kind of flipped through being past, going through education classes. Like a lot of it is psych, of like, you're dealing with people. So, and if I recall in that book, almost all of it talked about how they compared everything to elementary school kids and then the puzzles and how why people become motivated and how quickly they do. So I read that, and went back to what I knew of extrinsic versus intrinsic, getting people to really care versus, that 1 month might wear off after a while because it's just, okay, well, here we go. So I did read that one. Sorry, Trey, that he told you.
I feel attacked.
Are you triggered?
I am triggered.
Yeah. Sorry, man.
Formal complaint. Well,
Yeah, I'm the HR department, so if you want to file that.
We have clients arriving, but I want to tell you guys a story of my absolute favorite referral system I've ever come across in my consulting, because I think it's fucking fantastic and I need to recreate it. So there's this gym in the UK that I worked with, and this guy has a system in place where he had a card made, like think the size of a greeting card, but a credit card blown up to that size. Super glittery and ridiculous. Like the thing, you hold it like, what the hell is this thing? And it basically would go out, he'd pick a client, and on their 6-month mark, he'd send them a handwritten thank you card. And he'd say, hey, Todd, you've been with us for 6 months and you're amazing. You are the model personality we like having in the gym. You changed the culture. You improved the training environment every time you come in. We need more people like you. So I have enclosed my referral card, and you give this to somebody that you think can have a similar impact on our facility. And when they come in, they'll train for free for that month, and you will train for free for that month. But do not give this to just anybody. And so take this shit seriously. Hold on to it as long as it takes until you find the right fit. And he said that it has run its cycle about 6 times, and all 6 of them have become lifetime customers, the people who have come through. And they bring in people who bring $10,000 to $20,000 of business a year through, because the people get the card and they're like, holy shit. On it, it actually says card number 1 of 1. And he just says, keep it as long as you have to. Do not just give this to anybody. And he gets these brilliantly pre-qualified personalities to come into his gym with a 100% success rate. Yeah, it's going to fail eventually, or they're going to get back and be like, this is too much of a burden. I don't know what to do with it. Just don't let me let you down. And fine, give it to the next person. But it cost him like $50 to make, and it has created like $100,000 worth of business for him in 18 months.
I gotta figure out where he made that card.
What's
awesome.
that?
You gotta figure out where he made that card.
Yeah, I'll circle back and ask him. It's not even about the material of the card. It's about the message.
Yeah.
It's value you, and you are a game changer. I need more of you. Will you help me find more yous? And people are like, wow, what a compliment. Shit, I got to find somebody good. Who's the best personality in my network? And you give away 2 months of free training for 2 people who are going to be there forever. I mean, it's brilliant. It's like this big picture, long vision, long game type shit that I just couldn't have come up with on my own. And I love it. I absolutely love it. So if you can implement something similar in concept, think about ways to do so. All right, guys, I got to tap out. We are the only gym in America that opens right at noon, but that means the office is packed right now.
That's awesome. Well, thanks, Pete. This was great. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Pete.
Yes, thank you. See you later.
Take care, guys.